Hi, I'm Jason Gorber for ThatShelf.com, and we're here to talk about Paul Schrader's The Card Counter.
Big shelf.
So let's just get this off the bat right away. Paul Schrader is a bit of a schmuck. He's one of the great writers of cinema history and a pretty terrific director. Both of those things can exist at the same time. I think a lot of people are sort of upset about some of the remarks that he's made sort of habitually on Facebook. He's certainly been kicked out of a bunch of celebrity poker games. He's been an opinionated sort of dour bastard for decades, and so we should not be surprised about that. That put aside, here, the man who had the compunction to write Taxi Driver is going to have a little bit of demons in his past. That being said, I think this film is actually pretty terrific, due not only to some pretty smart writing, but to Oscar Isaac, who's amazing in this film. Oscar Isaac is great in lots of things, but he really chews this film up and absolutely gives it its all. While Paul Schrader has had sort of a late career renaissance of sorts. First Reform is amazing. This does not approach that level of magnitude. Nonetheless, it's fun to see him sort of playing with some of the things that makes him great, touching upon slightly larger political issues within the context of something very different. In this case, we have sort of a melding between what took place in Abu Ghraib and the whole debauchery of going to be a professional gambler and playing in World Series of Poker tournaments, and how those dynamics sort of play it. It's really interesting and pretty fascinating. Co-stars Ty Sheridan, who plays this kid, the sort of whose father was also working the prison with Oscar Isaac's former Marine character. And Tiffany Haddish. Now, I'm just going to come out and say it. I've never been a huge fan of Tiffany Haddish. I don't like her in her animated shows. I don't particularly like her comedy. I don't really like what she has to do. She just doesn't work for me. And in this film, the character just has to have a particular dynamic, a chemistry with Oscar Isaac, and I just found the chemistry between them absolutely absent. That being said, Oscar Isaac's just doing so much work to try to make it work, and I just found her just distant and just sort of trying to be in a different movie. I just think that it didn't work at all. And again, Ty Sheridan working as a kid, just didn't do it either. Like any of the intensity, it's just there. So you have this sort of trio of characters, and two of them are just not working at all. You have Willem Dafoe, who is always extraordinary. Willem Dafoe, of course, has worked with Schrader wrote Last Temptation of Christ, adapted Last Temptation of Christ, and sort of that dynamic between Oscar Isaac and Willem Dafoe is interesting, but Dafoe's not in the film very much. So really, the film is about sitting back and watching, enjoying sort of the elements taken from Schrader's own experiences about gambling and his views of the American military and the use of torture and all of that stuff. And Oscar Isaac just bringing this sort of calm, this sort of precision, and then moments of anger when he needs to. And he's so good that it makes the film absolutely 100% worth watching. So there's absolutely ingredients for me that don't work, but there's enough here to highly, highly recommend this film. I definitely think that it illustrates once again how the range of Oscar Isaac performance, everything from like sci-fi nonsense to blockbusters to these real cool, intimate, like art house things. The guy can pretty much do it all. I mean, for God's sakes, he was Llewyn Davis. Incredible performer, and so charismatic and so engaging and so inviting that everything else that gets dropped on this film is overcome by Isaac's presence. It's as simple as that. Echoes a little bit to Schrader's collaborator Casino, where you sort of have the breakdown about how all this stuff works. Nowhere near as effective, but nonetheless, it's kind of fun to see that sort of inside baseball stuff within the world of of card counting and gameplay. The way that they shoot things is actually really interesting. There's this really wild, wide-angled lens for all the sort of prison sequence. It creates sort of this 180 sort of sweeping thing. I found that really interesting, visually interesting. But again, the film comes down to just watch Oscar Isaac just sort of wander around on screen, and you'll get everything that this film actually has to deliver. So that's the card counter. Definitely worth your time. Slightly flawed, but nonetheless super interesting, sort of like the character itself. Thanks so much for watching. For thatshelf.com, I'm Jason Gorber. Please subscribe. Please follow us on social media, and we will see you next video. All the best. Take care.